welcome to Confession Sessions. I'm your host, Modesta Tonin, and joining me today is Mariam Azimi. Hi Mariam, welcome to our show.
Thank you for having me.
We're happy that you're here. So the team and I, we had a little bit of a hard time coming up with the first question because this is such a sensitive subject. Between the ages of 9 and 11, you were abused.
Yes.
And that led you to become an advocate for sexual abuse survivors. It also helped you establish something that you're very proud of, which is called Project This Is Me.
Yes.
So Mariam, we're just going to get to it. We want to know your story and what this project means to you.
Absolutely. So, as you mentioned, I was sexually abused from the ages of 9 to 11 by a family member, which kind of obviously made things a little bit worse because as a child, you look to your adults to protect you. And for me, it was the exact opposite. I was a troubled child because of this trauma. And, you know, when you suppress this sort of thing, it comes out in different ways. Yeah. So to other people, it was, Mariam wants attention again. She's acting out. She's getting in trouble. She's caught with another boy. But for me, it was a cry for help. And as those things kind of, you know, started to ramp up, I thought, well, there's no way I can come out with this. Nobody's going to believe me. I'm already a troublemaker. And so, you know, I'm from the Middle Eastern culture, and there's just so many stigmas around this topic that make women fear coming out with their story, especially, you know, at a young age when you don't know what's right. And so with all those reasons, I decided I'm going to bury this secret. I'm not going to tell anyone because I don't want to make things worse. Fearing my own safety too, because I didn't know what would happen to me from the abuser had I come out with this story. And, you know, when you really think about it, who are you going to believe? A grown adult or a little child who keeps getting in trouble? So as the years went on, I suppressed it and I suppressed it, and I became great at it. You know, there were times where
the secret well,
I would get, you know, things would happen and I wouldn't even connect it back to the trauma. I would just connect it back to myself, my insecurity, the fact that I'm not good enough. And, you know, the years went on, high school came on, I went into university, had so many breakdowns, and I could never understand why. Because I had suppressed it so deep, it was I never even made the connection. And then 17 years later, fast forward to 17 years later.
You would be, how old?
I was 28. 28, and I was with a former partner of mine. We'd been dating about maybe 8 months. We're sitting in the living room watching TV. He just looks over and he says, I want to ask you something. And if you don't want to talk about it, we will never talk about it. But if this is something that's happened, I want to be here for you. And I just looked at him and I'm like, okay, go. What are you going to ask me? The thought never even crossed my mind. And he just looked at me and he said, I have a feeling you have sexual abuse trauma. Wow. And to use the word flabbergasted, you know, I just sat there and I thought, wait, I was, because I had suppressed it so much. The feelings just came rushing back, and I had a few seconds to think. It was, do I just bury the secret? Do I keep it and just keep walking the world? You know, nothing really seems that wrong right now. I think I'm doing okay. Or do I finally just let this out? And before my mind could even make up an answer, my heart just bursted. I kind of fell to the ground and I said yes. And that's all I remember from that day. I just said yes, and that was it. And that's kind of where my healing journey began. 17 years later, after the actual trauma.
Because you said it out loud.
For the first time
you even heard.
Even to myself. I had never even admitted to it.
That must have been a very emotional time.
I think I had never cried in front of him. And from the time that the trauma happened, I was never a crier. Yeah. You know, people would die, family members would die, they would get hurt, I would get in trouble, and I would never shed a tear.
Did you cry then after you told him? Like, did it?
I bursted into tears that I never even knew I had. Yeah. And he just sat there, and I thought, oh, this is scary even for me. He's probably out the door. And he looked at me, he took me by the hand, and he said, I'm here for you.
How does a question like that come from your boyfriend at the time?
Yep.
What do you think would make him ask you
To this day, To this day, we talk about it. He's still a very good friend of mine. And I asked him, like, what made you ask this question? He said, there was nothing that you did. There was nothing that triggered me to say, oh, you know, I'm putting pieces together. He's a very observant fellow. I tell people that know him and my friends that know him too, he's wired very differently. You know, he is all about human behaviors and helping others and seeing past the physical and seeing past that fake smile that you try to put on for the world.
So did you think maybe that he knew that you were, like, in a way hiding something? Did he feel that maybe he didn't have
all the information? Yes.
Right.
He didn't think I was fully me.
Right.
Right? And I thought, oh, here I was 17 years thinking I had hit it so well. And I was with somebody for 6 years before that. My family, who's been through it, you know, throughout the whole thing, never once even, you know, not to care to think, but didn't really pick up on anything. And I thought, this is the most interesting thing I've ever seen. And like I said, so that's kind of where it began. The healing process kind of began. And
28 years old. You've said it out loud. Now you're like, all right.
And you know, people think that when children go through trauma, they're resilient. They bounce back and they're able to kind of move forward. And for me, it was, okay, well, it happened as a child, but now I'm an adult. I've made certain decisions in my life. I've led a certain lifestyle. How do I now all of a sudden start attacking demons at the age of 28?
Right.
And so,
reliving it in a way, right?
Reliving the whole entire thing. And so started looking for a therapist because right then I knew I needed help. I knew this was not something that I could do on my own. And it took 2 years to actually find somebody who I could actually connect with and be able to be free. And at the age of 30, I found her, and she told me one of the most realist things that anyone has said. I sat down in her office. I remember the day perfectly, and she said to me, "Listen, I talk with a lot of sexual abuse survivors. So this is what I do. This is my specialty." She's like, "I just want to be honest because there's a lot of misconceptions when you go into therapy. People think of it as medicine. It's going to cure me. I'm going to come out of this. I'm going to be all okay." And she said, "You're not." She said, I can't cure you. She's like, "I'm not a magician." Right? That's not my job. My job is to help you manage the feelings.
Cope and deal.
And cope and give you the techniques so that when these, you know, little episodes come and you do think about the past, that you're equipped with the tools in order to move on, so that it doesn't
for the rest
take
of your
over
life,
for the
really,
rest of your life.
it's not like you said, you don't go to therapy and then say, "I'm fixed,
Exactly.
I'm healed." It's
Exactly.
now saying this is how you can move on and how you can
live with it, because you can live with it, right? She says, "My job is to make sure that the trauma doesn't win,
right?
That you succeed in this." And I sat there and I thought, no one has ever put it to me like that. No one has ever told me. You know, when I came out with the story, everyone's like, "You'll be fine. You're such a strong person. You'll get through this." And it's like, that's the last thing I want to hear.
So after you had, you know, you found your therapist and you started to look at what happened and try to deal with it and understand that it wasn't your fault, you're on this road now to help other children and other abuse survivors.
Well, I actually didn't even start there. When I went into therapy, it was just focusing on me and trying to understand why, what, where, how. You know, and some of those questions will never be answered.
Yeah, you'll never answer them.
And I was coping with the difficulty of, well, am I supposed to forgive this person in order to move on? Because that came up in our conversations in therapy so much. And you know, when I would go onto social media and talk to others, it was always healing is a path, or forgiveness is a path to forgiveness or healing. And you're thinking, okay, so am I supposed to forgive the person that completely ruined my childhood, that stole my innocence away? Am I supposed to let this person off the hook and give them the satisfaction that you're okay, I forgive you, you can move on with your life? And I looked at her and I said, I don't think I can ever do that. Does that mean that I can never accept what's going on and I can never be okay with it? And she said, absolutely not. You know, forgiveness is not a prerequisite to healing. If you feel that that's what you have to do in order to continue, absolutely.
I think it's actually, in thinking that way, it's actually just forgiving yourself.
That's it.
You forgive yourself for you did nothing wrong, and your choices moving forward are your choices.
Absolutely.
So you're not here to make his life comfortable or anybody that has, you know, hurt you. You're here now to figure out how to continue living your own life, right, on your own terms, which I know you and I have had these conversations. And
yes, and it hasn't been easy trying to forgive yourself for something that was really not your fault.
I want you to tell me, though, a little bit about Project This Is Me. It's really important for everybody to hear what it is.
Absolutely. So when I started therapy in 2016, you know, it was a difficult journey. You know, I had good days, I had bad days, mostly bad days to begin with, because it's just so overwhelming when you start attacking your inner demons. And, you know, for the next 2 years, I thought, okay, I'm making progress. But every now and then, I would break.
Yeah.
I would break. I've had multiple suicide attempts. I've had multiple drug overdoses. Because the feelings get so overwhelming, where you're just looking for the easy way out and saying, I don't want to have to deal with this anymore. I don't want to deal with this.
You're trying to hurt yourself
You're
even more.
You're trying to hurt yourself so you don't feel that pain. You focus on a totally different pain. Yeah. And so in 2018, I had one of the worst episodes I've ever had. I was bedridden. I took a few months off work. Finally, I have never done that since the age of 13. And I thought, you know, at this time it has to be different. I can't keep going through these motions. I can't keep thinking I'm okay, you know, healing, and then breaking down, picking up the pieces, and then healing again. And I had to figure out what I was doing wrong. And I think I came to the realization that every time I had a mental episode or I had a mental breakdown, it was that I was trying to put the pieces back together. I was gluing things back together, and that was a Band-Aid fix. I said, I'm gonna let myself completely break. I'm gonna let the pieces shatter. I'm gonna throw them away. Now what I need to do is I need to reinvent myself. I need to rebuild because this is not who I wanna be. So I sat there and I said, well, who am I? Who do I wanna become? And what do I wanna do with this experience? Because I can't let it have a negative effect. It can't just be this. And that's where Project This Is Me kind of was born. I had started writing a few years before, trying to tell my story in hopes that it would reach others. And while I write for me, it's great that I put my thoughts down on paper. When I was posting it and when I was relieving it to the world, it was just a whole sense of different feelings that I was getting, and it was almost like it was reliving the trauma all over again. And it wasn't getting a lot of attraction. This isn't something like, you know, a makeup blog or a travel blog where it's so easy to say, oh, this is so much fun, I want to do this. This is very depressing, very sensitive.
So how do you talk about such a difficult, like we started this interview, how do you start the conversation?
Exactly, and how do you keep the conversation going, right? So I thought, well, writing is not working for me, and when I kind of thought back to it, I thought, you know, when I used to get these episodes come over me, music and videos were my escape. I used to, you know, put my headphones on or watch a movie, and it would allow me to escape into a different world and not think about what was happening. And I thought, well, what if I could combine those two? And so we actually teamed up with a local band, Hemispheres Music, who wrote an original song that kind of captures the trauma, the experiences, but also the triumph of it all, the strength that it takes a woman to overcome this sort of thing. And I thought, well, I want to take it one step further, because now I want to express and display those feelings visually. I'm a visual learner. I have to see things, you know, out loud in order for me to actually understand it. And I know many people in the world are like that. You know, you can only gauge so much information by listening to someone's story or reading about it. And so I thought, let's do a music video, right? Because that will be able to capture the essence of what I really want to talk about. Music therapy. And it's a way for me to reach out to others who may be going through the same thing, who did not have that hand that I didn't have. Who can say, you know what, there are other people going through this and I'm not alone. I like to think that, you know, now that I've gone through this, I'm an advocate for women who have been through this sort of thing or are still struggling with it. And if I can just help one woman and to know that you're not alone, you will overcome this. It may be the most difficult thing that you do, but it's possible.
You're very brave. And I think that the fact that you can put, you know, music to something that has been such a hardship for you is a great way to start conversation. And I have a last question for you. If you were able to go back to that 9-year-old little girl or anyone going through the abuse, what would this Mariam tell them?
I would tell them that you're a warrior. You know, when you think about a warrior, what do? They get pushed down and they get back up again.
The words of hope.
The words of hope, they protect those around them. You know, I protected people from the secret because I didn't want them to feel what I was feeling. You know, one of the very first people that I told was my mother. And as a mother, as a parent, the last thing you want to hear is that this happened to your child without you knowing. And to say that she carries the guilt on even to this day is not even
This conversation is so layered, and there's so many different layers to it. And you know, what your mother has to go through is just another layer of your story. And I know you and I can talk so much more, and I hope to talk with you again. And I would just like you to maybe tell everybody where they can learn more about you, Project This Is Me, and just you, yourself.
Absolutely. So if you guys ever need to reach out to me, the project's handle page on Instagram is at Project This Is Me. There's a period in between each of those words. If there are women out there who are struggling with their own journey and who just need, you know, an ear to vent to or a hand to hold on to, you guys can reach out and DM me at lady2_EM on Instagram.
We'll have everything at the bottom of this video, and I want to thank you so much for sharing your story with me.
Thank you for having me.
And I know you and I are going to talk so much more, Confession sessions will always be about stories of love, resilience, and personal empowerment. Thank you.